Welcome to Real Aviation Facts. In today's video, we will have a look at the record holding Alpha November 225 Mriya, also known as Cossack. Highlights of the records are, being the largest cargo aircraft in the world, and she was used to transport Russian space shuttles. The Alpha November 225 Mriya from the Ukrainian builder Antonov had the NATO code name Cossack. She is a lengthened version of the Alpha November 1-4 Condor, and she was specially designed for back transportation of large weights. The gigantic aircraft could lift cargoes up to 250 tons over large distances. So far, there is no other aircraft in the world that can lift such amounts of weight. The Alpha November 225 gave Antonov the fame of having built the largest aircraft in the world, but there is currently no large market for such a super heavy transport aircraft. With the Alpha November 225, which is based on the huge Alpha November 1-4 that was also larger than the Charlie 5 Galaxy, the greatest aircraft of all time was created. She exceeded the payload of her predecessor by nearly 50%. And on the huge hull were 6 engines and 7 pairs of wheels on each side. This flying giant was developed to transport many space-taking building components of the Energia rockets as part of the Russian space program. The only Alpha November 225 to date made its maiden flight on December 21, 1988. And on May 13, 1989, she carried the space shuttle Busan for the first time. Due to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the cuts to the Russian space program, the Alpha November 225 became unemployed. As a result, the colossal Mriya was usually on the ground, where she slowly rusted away and was demolished. Plans to make it the carrier of the British spaceship Schuttle failed. A second copy remained unfinished. Unlike the Alpha November 1-4, which enjoyed considerable success as a heavy transport aircraft, the Alpha November 225 often remained unused. The Alpha November 225 appeared at a time when Russian aviation had reached its peak and surprised Western observers with novelties. The Alpha November 225 was presented at the 1989 Paris Air Show, where she carried the spaceship Busan during a spectacular performance. The Busan was originally to be carried by a modified Atlant M for Busan, but it was never used for space travel and only made an unmanned test flight. The dual trackpad design was absolutely necessary to allow stable flight with the Busan on the fuselage. The spacecraft had caused uncontrollable air vortices at a single trackpad. The tailplane made a positive V angle to achieve extra stability. On the wings of the AN-225 were fold-out front wings, Fowler flaps at the rear, and internal and external air brakes. Above the cargo compartment, there is a large cabin for 60 to 70 passengers. The nose not only serves as a tailgate, but also contains a weather radar and a downward-facing terrain tracking and cartography radar. Seven pairs of wheels on each side make up the main undercarriage. The strong, although not completely reliable Lotarev D18 bypass motor is also used in the smaller Alpha November 124 Condor. To distinguish it from the older large Antonovs, such as the Alpha November 22, the Alpha November 225 has no cargo doors in the rear, but only a nose tailgate. Technical data Alpha November 225 Mriya. Type, particularly large transport aircraft. Motors, 6 ZMBK Progress Lotarev D18T bypass motors, each rated at 229.47 kilonewtons. Maximum cruising speed, 850 kilometers per hour. Cruising speed, 700 kilometers per hour. Range, 15,400 kilometers. Flight ceiling, 11,145 meters. Weight, empty 350,000 kilograms. Loaded 600,000 kilogram. Capacity, very large and very heavy loads. There is a crew of maximum 12 persons needed to transport the Energia missiles. As a troop carrier, it can carry more than 600 soldiers. Dimensions: wingspan 88.4 meters. Length 84 meters. Height 18.2 meters. Wing area 905 square meters. Operational data. Maximum load. The load capacity of the AN-225 is unsurpassed. Even the AN-124 can only carry 60% of its load. The cargo of the Mriya may weigh as much as 1.5 empty C-5 Galaxy. Runway. The larger the aircraft, the longer its runway. For example, despite huge wings and 6 engines, the AN-225 takes off very late, but not substantially later than comparable machines. The AN-225 needs 3,500 meters of runway to take off. The AN-124 needs 3,000 meters of runway to take off. The C-5 needs 2,950 meters of runway to take off. The world's largest transport aircraft. 1965 AN-22. The AN-22, in its time the largest transport aircraft, is today the largest turboprop aircraft in the world. Despite its age, it is still widely used because the propeller turbines provide relatively low operating costs. The AN-22 set some records that still stand. 1968 Lockheed C-5. The largest transport aircraft of the U.S. Air Force is still widely used despite some problems with the engine suspensions and the wing beams. The C-5 set records in the field of payload transport, which were later broken by the AN-124. 1982 AN-124. The AN-124 formed the basis for the design of the AN-225, but had by far the greatest commercial success. It is used by Aeroflot as much as by Volga-Dnieper and other Russian companies that carry out large transports. The AN-124 could even transport armored vehicles. Busan carrier. The AN-225 served as a pendulum for the space shuttle Busan. The British spacecraft project HOTOL was also planned as cargo for the Antonov. Huge wingspan. Here on runway, the AN-225 displays its mighty wings with flaps covering almost the entire wingspan. Full speed ahead. The mighty power of the 6 bypass motors, Lotarev D18, provided AN-225 with good starting characteristics for such a huge aircraft. Monster on wheels. The unheard of weight of the AN-225 is supported by a chassis with 7 pairs of wheels and 4 nose wheels mounted in pairs in 2 rows. Before loading, the nose wheels can be retracted. Folding nose. The nose of the AN-225 can be opened so that very large loads can be loaded. There even fit helicopters in this opening. Facts and figures. The AN-225 made its first flight with the Busan spacecraft from Baikonur launch site on May 13, 1989. On March 22, 1989, the AN-225 set no less than 106 cargo records. The AN-225 is almost twice the size of the Lockheed C-5 Galaxy. On her record flights, the AN-225 started with a weight of 508,200 kilograms, at a payload of 156 tons. Usually the AN-225 flew with 2 pilots, to flight engineers, and to navigators. The control is done via an electronically controlled flight position control. And in 2020 to disaster struck.
Просто грусть такая, что передать невозможно. Сам понимаю, что еще, да, ровно 2 месяца назад я в крайнюю командировку отправился на Мрии, слетал. И даже не мог себе предположить, что такое вообще может случиться.
But let's remember how it was. If you like this video, consider subscribing and hit that bell button to see the newest video here on Real Aviation Facts. Thank you for watching.